everything is now apparently being remade. At the same time, the next generation of consoles, particularly, is about to drop, which is an interesting crossover of things that are happening. So what is happening? Yeah, we'll talk about a little bit of news and remakes. Also, a particular remake that also triggered this conversation um, that we're going to talk about as well, or revisit the idea of it anyway. So let's start with another news about remakes. Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 remastered. Um, and coming in September 4th. This is Kotaku about Mike Fahey. Tony Hawk fans who sign up for the Legendary Tech Service have Legendary Skaters Tech Service has received a message today indicating that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2 are making some sort of comeback update. It's official. Tony Hawk Pro Skater Plus 1 Plus 2 will come out on September 4th for PC, PlayStation 4, and Xbox One. The message reads as follows: Hey, I have a surprise I wanted to tell you first. We are bringing back Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, original maps, original skaters, and songs from the original soundtrack, plus new features. The game looks awesome. It will be officially announced soon. This was actually something that was weird. The second screen was still hosting something else. So that was from his tweet text message thing. I never actually played any of the Tony Hawk skater games myself. I know a lot of people who have, but I didn't play them myself. But they made a big impression, and yes, another remake, which is not surprising considering how off the rails the skater series, came off. So if they want to keep this is an example of keeping a franchise alive. So yeah.
Yeah, especially the disastrous, like, what was it, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 5, I think, that was just a complete mess, and it had like this weird peripheral like skateboard thing. I remember those were, I wouldn't say big, but like they were popular enough to warrant sort of like a constant stream of those. We saw maybe one or two each generation.
Yeah, it was a good you know earner for Activision.
Yeah, not quite to the levels of like the other mainstream sports like football and baseball games and stuff, but just kind of like a pretty decent, I guess, pseudo annual franchise.
Mm-hmm. Talking about old consoles and new consoles, we have news about Sony copying Microsoft creates. Sony copies Microsoft creates new PlayStation Studio brand by Ethan Gotch. Today, Sony announced a new. This was 2 hours ago. Sony announced a new game for its first-party game, PlayStation Studio. PlayStation Studio will consider Sony internal studios like Naughty Dog, Maniac Games, and Santa Monica Studio. There's a new announced alongside video for a new opening cinematic that will play each PlayStation Studio game starts on the console. Because of some of the company's most iconic characters like Uncharted Nathan Drake and Horizon Zero Dawn's Aloy. I guess we can expect this more support for upcoming consoles. Thank you, Chapelman, hosting excellent ones here.
Yeah. I don't know why I have it set to auto host, and it doesn't seem to be actually auto hosting your channel.
Yeah, it happens to me as well. So sometimes you have too many. Just give me a sec, because I need to check the air conditioning for some. Yes, right. For some reason, the afternoons, if I turn in the AC, it just starts shutting down. Hopefully, it won't affect my computer because it did last time. So yeah, I think it's they're gearing up for a new console generation. So they want to make sure they have the brand recognition, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies to you guys who were watching. It's like, under the way, because what you do in the middle of the stream. Yeah. That's the news. This one is interesting. This is by Ian Walker and Kotaku. All these are news here from Kotaku. Samurai Showdown Twitter account walked back overly horny tweets.
What?
Yeah, Ramsey, it is. This is quoting the article. It started in simply enough as more and more players celebrated Samurai Showdown next DLC character, Iroha. More specifically, the large amount of DNA she adds to the roster. The official Twitter account began retweeting screenshots taken from her revealed trailer. Predictably, most of these images focus on her butt rather than anything else. Anything she's capable of doing during a match. It was shortly followed by a tweet from Samurai Showdown account itself, responding to community reaction to Iroha revealed. Well, we are all horny on main tonight. Samurai Showdown developers NSK fighting games tend to be pretty horny, even in genre riff with half-naked women. The studio's pseudo mascot Mai Shiranui is almost always defined by the way her ample cleavage bounces always plays during the fights. But Iroha basically sex appeal the character. She is subservient, scantily clad maid, walking fetish if there was one. And I'm quoting from the article. I'm just reading right out of the screen here. Samurai Showdown community generally agrees that the purpose of so-called fan series about wells. The players will get all hot and bothered by Iroha's pixelated ass. Didn't come as a surprise, but it was strange to see an official SNK account so explicitly cater to those takes, especially when it came to light that the posts were both made female players uncomfortable. And the walkback, quoting from the tweet itself, a number of posts made by this account have been deemed inappropriate and offensive by members of our community. The admin in charge has been given a strict warning to be more considerate. The offending posts have now been deleted. Please accept our sincere apologies. By the way, for people who don't know the character of Mai Shiranui, how can I describe this without actually going to it? It's a character who has essentially two strips covering her front and one in the back, maybe underwear, I think, and that's it. That's the character. It's all red. He's from one of the fighting games, SNK fighting games. Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, so I don't know, like
Google it yourself.
Yeah, Samurai Showdown's one of those that like franchises that it's like you've seen it around, but you don't really know who plays it. Like I always just see it in sort of like one of those SNK arcades. Maybe it's just in like some random, like really old, like place that has like really old arcades. It's one of those franchises I've never really paid too much attention or really thought it was not necessarily a serious like fighting game. It's like it looks fine. It always looks interesting, but I never ever gotten into one of those like fighting games, even though I'm not much for fighting games to begin with.
Yeah.
But it's it's like a franchise I'm still surprised it's still going.
So I played it when it came out in arcade many years ago, and it wasn't that explicit. I mean, back in the day, in fact, most of you would get is like shirtless guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the main character basically has a kimono and open chest, and he would flex and stuff like that. So it really wasn't that female centric like other fighting games. But I'm sure that in order to keep up with the market, I suppose they kept exposing more and more skin, especially to female characters. So yeah, I mean, one thing to sort of wink and nod, and that the people that you're even retweeting or on your feed are doing all these things. Like during Mother's Day, I saw a Twitter that was particularly how can I put this in a tactful way? Very appreciated of women who are mothers in a sensual way. With a 4-letter acronym to go with it, starting with M. And I'm like, wow, Twitter, that's a thing, right? Twitter's very weird in that you can find very explicit stuff like that, but sometimes they were like, oh, you can't show this. And it was like, what? I mean, okay, so it's all over the place when it comes to Twitter. So there's a lot of adult stars and stuff like that. So yeah, it shouldn't surprise people that this is a thing. But it's also bad form for officially going like, yes, we're doing this for TNA, unless you sort of unless that's your opening gambit. Like that was about near Automata. The creator said, yeah, the reason why the main character is a girl is because I like seeing girls in cute, gimpy outfits. And people were like, okay, right? Unlike say some others, like somebody else like Kojima, who said, you would be ashamed when we tell you why this other character has a very revealing clothing because
Yeah,
they breathe through their
no.
skin or something. Okay, then fine.
Yeah, it's sort of like I was reading up after playing Near Automata. It's, like what the hell is up with like the entire getup, and
Mm-hmm.
some of it is sort of explained. Or at least it's sort of justified in that kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit ridiculous, but ultimately, at least the creators admitted I like girls. Like,
Yeah.
okay, I respect that. It's you're upfront about it, even though they're like, oh well, high heels. I mean, they're androids, so they can compensate, or they have to have like no pants because that helps them stay cool and generate heat. And the weird blindfolds, those aren't actual blindfolds; they're tactical goggles, but it's symbolism. It's symbolism for them, the characters being blind to like the truth. It's like, "Oh, okay, that's interesting," but it's like, as far as the getup and stuff, yeah, I like girls. I wanna dress her up that way.
Yeah, I
Okay.
like to see
That's
cute
respectable,
butts, and
then
I'm not gonna lie, yeah, that's basically the what he went for. Like,
yeah, at least it's not like, "Oh, ho, ho," but, I mean, there's this in-game, reason. I
mm,
mean, it's fine if there is an in-game reason, but not just like, "Aha," like, that's she has to be like that.
yeah. Switching to other advertising news, and this title of this article is interesting. Here's the non E3 2020 press conference schedule by Ethan Gage. Basically talking about all the other conferences that are out there, probably most of them virtual, that are going to go on in lieu of E3. As E3, as you know, has been canceled this year. Um, it has a couple of them. It means the Summer Game Fest, Guerrilla Collective, PC Gaming Show, Steam Game Festival, CD Projekt Red Night City Wire, EA Play Live 2020, Ubisoft Move Forward, Microsoft's Xbox 2020. And that's one thing we didn't talk about this maybe too much on the E3 thing, is that there's something to have been. I think we did talk about it. It's something to be said about the fact that E3 was such a big
Like, it's an
an
event.
event in the
It's
calendar, right? A calendar event,
yeah.
right? It right now because there's no E3, and I'm not a. I mean, I'm like most people. You watch E3, ironically, to make fun of it. Um, but the thing about E3 was that it was when you got the big reveals, right? You got the big announcements. You it was like, yeah, we're in a new gaming calendar. Here are the new hotness, whether you play them or not, bought them or not, didn't matter. You knew what was coming to a degree. It set the pace. Now with stuff that it goes from May 12th all the way to July 12th, right?
Yeah.
It feels fragmented, and I'm always like, one of the things we're going to talk about remakes is because the feeling is that there's no real big announcement for the next generation. At best, we're getting new games like Valhalla, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but they feel like more like the last hurrah of this generation, right? Which you always get to the biggest games and the games that take the most advantage of the hardware in the last generation, and I'm gonna cross over to the new generation. You talked about this before we started, and but nothing that says you have to buy it. It used to be like when Xbox 360 released, it was like you have to buy the 360 because it has the new Halo. It's gonna have Mass Effect and have this and that. So you have to buy the PlayStation because it's gonna have these games. It could be because we don't have that sort of concentrated this is it. This is the big. This is the big show kind of presentation. Um,
Yeah, I was just reading that Jeff Keighley, I guess, is his thing is now is the Summer Game Fest.
mhm.
Apparently, it was just announced yesterday that oh yeah, we're having a stream tomorrow on Wednesday, so like just like a 2-day advance thing, which is, I mean, that's sort of like oh hey, this thing's happening. Get you better be ready in 2 days. Yeah, it's like reading events may be different for everybody, but in the summer, full set of next generation console reveals. So, yeah, I think this year's, like, delivery of news in terms of big reveals and stuff, it is you're right, it's gonna be very fragmented. We're gonna hear bits and pieces from here and there, and, of course, this goes back to also how, I guess, certain studios might have, like, maybe like, exclusivity deals in terms of announcements, like, "Oh, hey,
Yeah,
we'll only announce this game at, like, the PlayStation Direct or the Xbox Direct or the Nintendo Direct."
yeah. In other news, and sort of sad news, but as a title, Players in Kotaku by Ian Walker, it was expected. As expected, Nintendo is taking down that unofficial Super Mario 64. We
Hmm.
both know there was a PC port of Super Mario 64 that came out about a couple of weeks ago. Very popular. At least one PC port for Super Mario 64 appeared and could run the classic game in 4K and be modded with other graphical improvements. Now, according to notice obtained by Torrent Freak, frequent Nintendo representative Wildwood Law Group is making moves to have it pulled from servers. They haven't been successful in every attempt. Many of the more public sources on executable have already been nuked. An interesting take. Uh, Takedowns have also extended to YouTube videos of the third-party projects, such as one previous story. Yeah, I mean it's Nintendo protecting their brand, right? And Nintendo brand does not include PC games,
Mhm.
so they want you to play in their platforms.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, the only time they branched out sort of outside is, like, the more recent, mobile outings.
yeah,
And of course, way back in the day when it came to what, the 3DO, which something they don't like to talk about.
yeah. And also, I think it's again we'll talk about remakes in a moment. If Nintendo is going to remake or port or whatever you want to call it, the Switch, they don't want to sort of create their own competition or allow competition. Yeah, people can just download it to their PC, and why should they get it on the Switch, right?
Yeah, I've been something sort of unrelated, I've been hearing rumors of maybe, like, some sort of, like, Super Mario anniversary, like, collection thing for the Switch in terms of, like, a bunch of older games that haven't been ported yet, but that's just rumor, I haven't seen anything concrete.
Yeah. Further news from Nintendo. Well, adjacent to Nintendo, Detroit Lions use Animal Crossing to reveal 2020 schedule. Throw shade, according to Mike Fahey. Shouting out to the new house for holding it down while we wait for football season. Detroit Lions revealed its 2020 schedule with an Animal Crossing video full of full swipes at its rival teams. Got a bear being buried for Chicago, Peaches for Atlanta, a Green Bay fan brutally beaten with bug nets. They even used Red Shady Ship to stage a Viking raid. Yeah, I guess it's one of those things where we're seeing these virtual worlds being used for advertising in interesting ways, right? We've seen all the sports, Formula One and others trying to use their video game counterparts to have events and the likes. Like, oh, you can go watch Formula One, because not gonna schedule it, but you can play it or see the stream of drivers playing it or playing football or whatever. So yeah, it also shows how popular it is. It's popular even with politicians like AOC.
Mhm.
You know, Hollywood stars who like to visit your island and ask for tips. Elijah Woods is only has to think at what extent that he likes to visit islands for artsy.
Yeah, and like I've mentioned, I've seen people at work talk about this game. That's not something I usually see is people talking about video games at work. But it seems like, oh hey, there's plenty of I hate the term casual gamers that are actually really into having owning Switches and apparently having Animal Crossing or Animal Crossing.
In other news, and this is more of rumors, well, squashing rumors, Bethesda says it will be years from now before we get an Elder Scrolls 6 detail. Pete Hines says the answer isn't going to change no matter how many times you ask. I kind of like that in a way, you know? Keep your mouth shut and actually work on the thing. Elder Scrolls will announce in E3 2018, so it's already going to be 2 years this month, next month. With a brief flyover the nondescript mountains, some generic music, and a title that wasn't even really a title at all, but because it didn't even say where the game will be located, despite the complex lack of actual information, everybody was very excited to learn the new edition. In fact, we made. In PAX East 2019, security producer Todd Howard warned that the new Elder Scrolls was still a very long way off, and that Bethesda wouldn't be talking about it that year. In 2019, rolled around, people started to talk about it anyway, leading Howard to say that the sci-fi RPG Starfield in Bethesda priority right now, and it's long off too. On one hand, yes, I'm not gonna talk about something that doesn't exist. The other is you already sparked the conversation 2 years ago, right? And you run the risk of this being, another Half-Life where people keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, and it's like, yeah, but it's not coming out, so. And as a reminder, but it's that we won't have a digital showcase still as well. So it's like, so why even talk about it 2 years ago? Because you had nothing to talk about, so decided to talk about this. That's great.
Well, wasn't the whole idea of revealing that was to kind of make their fans happy, especially after the whole Fallout 76 debacles,
Yeah,
multiple debacles. Like, oh look, single player Elder Scrolls game. Look that way.
Now,
please like us again.
yeah, basically very much, which kind of also ties into another piece of news we're going to talk in a moment. But this one I found very interesting. Former Apex Legends devs launch new anti-crunch studio. This is by Andy Schalk on PC Gamer. Drew McCoy and John Cheering want to shake things up with a smaller scale, big budget studio. I think that seems a bit like a contradiction in terms. Well, February, Apex Legends executive producer Drew McCoy left Respawn Fame after 10-year stretch that also earned him producer credits on Titanfall and Titanfall 2. He didn't say what he was getting up to next, but assured his followers on Twitter that he wouldn't be able to stay away from games for long. Wasn't kidding. McCoy and former Apex Legends lead software engineer John Shearing, who actually left Respawn, McCoy announced today that they're launching a new studio called Gravity Well, and that they hope to shake things up in big budget game development. We're starting a studio because of how we want to make games. Time to iterate on everything and get ideas and feedback from the whole team. We're building a studio to last for decades, and that doesn't happen without putting the team. We have a team health and absolute top priority. That means we're anti-crunch. That means station. That means everyone at Gravity Well has creative freedom because someone else makes decisions. Work is fun, and the end product is in it. What can I say? I wish them luck. They can actually pull it off, but I wouldn't. How can I say this? I would not announce that or say that you're anti-crunch before you have a product out there.
Yeah, especially when it's like, oh no, we need to get this product out now. I don't care if it's only 75% of the done. We got to get it 100%, within a month.
Yeah, I mean, you want to have a title under your belt, at least one title under your belt. Yes, we have done this. Right? Everybody keeps saying that you have to do crunch. No, we made a game, and it doesn't have to be a 25 million, 30 million unit seller, right? or downloads, what have you. But it be a couple of millions and keeps the studio has the lights on. It's like, yeah, we have a successful business model, and also, of course, is finance. Really, one of the reasons why you have a lot of crunch is financing, right? It's the money. It's not so much about whether one particular game makes money or not. It's whether or not you can keep the lights on, the next game and the next game, right? And since you're always sort of working on the margins, that puts everybody under pressure to accept or even push for crunch. We have to. You work in crunch because you already believe yourself to be in crunch. So it's sort of self-perpetuating, like, oh, we have to crunch because if we don't, we fail. But we didn't fail because we did crunch, so we have to do crunch again, regardless of whether or not the next game actually succeed or not, regardless of crunch. So it's kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way.
Mm-hmm.
I wish them luck. I didn't like that last game, but it wasn't my cup of tea. I tried it. Okay. Talking about bad business practices, the calling is coming back to Xbox with pay-to-play matches.
Wow.
How about remakes and resurrections and reimaginings and all kinds of things? Because this is the thing. Savian has announced that the Calling Origins, one of the earliest battle royale experiences in gaming, will return to Xbox One on May 14. The game will cost $5.99. Okay. But if you previously purchased the game or downloaded it when it was free to play, you'll be able to download the game again for free. Okay, so far so good. The relaunch of the Calling Origin comes with a host of new updates with core gameplay, including improved frame rates, improved AI behavior, more. All well and good. Okay. Well, by the way, this is by Ashley Bates at Culture Vultures. Thank Jim Sterling for pointing me in the direction of credit where credit's due. That said, and I'm quoting from the article, this relaunch comes with a view of sustainability, as Savian has attempted to streamline systems in order to keep the game alive indefinitely. That's a goal. That's a goal.
Yeah.
Yeah. This does it's games as service, a live service. Does not mean that you save games from the previous version have been wiped. Okay. Well, it's a new launch, so that's not the population in the original game wasn't that high anyway, so I don't think we will. But it also means a new token system for playing online matches. Players can compete in one online match for free per day, but in order to play additional matches, you need an online match tokens. These are granted for winning matches, but also be brought in packs of 3 tokens, 99 cents, 10 tokens, $2.99, and 20 tokens, $4.99. All these prices are US dollars. You can also purchase 7-day and 30-day passes to play without limits for $1.99 and $5.99 respectively. Literally pay to play.
Yeah.
I mean, this takes tickets. Like literally, it's like the whole analogy that you often use for an amusement park, which Jim stole. It's okay, Jim. I don't mind. Actually, he didn't steal it. Actually, what? How about it? I came up with it first. Even though this channel is not as popular as yours. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is you can have it. It's cool. You're good to go. You get this one free. But the whole analogy about going to the amusement park is literal here. It's like, oh, you want to get to that ice cream stand in the entrance of the park? No problem. You already pay your $5.99. You can do that. But if you want to visit, you want to stay on the park, you got to pay these tokens, right?
And it's like the fair. You have to pay to get in, and then you have to pay to buy tickets to be able to ride the rides. And of course, all the cool rides cost like about 10 tickets, and just for one person. And so, as Jim was bringing up in this video, the main issue was that the Calling 2 was sustaining attracting a population to come in and play it.
Mm-hmm.
How is this gonna help where you already have an entry fee, and then of course you can only play for free once a day, but then if say there's 100 matches with, I don't know, 5 players each, and there's only one person that can win, that drops it down to 50 match. No, well, it's like, well, I guess 100 matches, and then oh, if there's 5 people in each of those, what? That's 25. No,
Yeah, I mean,
20.
also it's if you're paying for essentially you're paying for individual matches. So it's like 3 matches for 99 cents is 33 cents per match minimal. In the lowest tier, and you lose. Imagine how much money you have to spend in order to get good, right?
Yeah,
And if, for example, people use things like bots, yikes, right? You're spending money and somebody comes in and wipes you out in their one free game, right? A day. You're like,
yep.
and then it's like, well, we got to fix it, but we don't have the money and the resources and blah, blah, blah. And like, I mean,
Well,
it's
my
just
my
stupid. If you want to, I mean, it's taking this idea of atomizing the game, chopping it into bits in every way possible. Like, and this is literally, you know, the idea of that every time you play the game, you have to pay for it again and again. It's just, I mean,
yeah, and
why pay for it in the beginning? It's like at
it,
least it were free to
it's like
play, maybe I guess, but
it's
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 not
like if
really.
you had an arcade, like you bought an arcade cabinet, but you still needed to put money in there, and you can't just take the money out and put it
Yeah,
back in again. Like that money is completely gone. Like it's an arcade game that you an arcade cabinet that you paid $1,000 for. You have to put money into it to get to play a game, but you don't have access to the money to get it back. It just disappears.
yeah. You
And
you buy a cabinet from Capcom, whatever company sells it. And you're like, oh yeah, well, I bought it. It's $1,000, and I put a quarter, and then it's like, oh, I'm just gonna open it up to see where my quarters goes.
it's just
I
gone.
like the sound. It's gone. It's like, and there's a little message from Capcom saying, hey, we got you teleported the money away because like, but I own the cap. The what? Right? I mean, I guess it's sort of the full loop of going back to the arcade experience, except that most
And
of those arcade games were very short, and you had a lot of options. And a dollar, you could play 4 different games if you wanted to, and it was the experience. And you didn't own the game, right? It cost thousands of
yeah,
dollars to get a cabinet. Even today, depending how you do it, could be a couple of hundreds, a couple of $1,000. Like I talked about the last Christmas that Walmart was saying like half side cabinets, like kits for half side cabinets were about $200, $300, and that's where like playing asteroid stuff like they were pretty crappy. The joysticks was like just break off. Like clearly they were not made to the standards of an actual cabinet. So yeah, I mean it's not even going full circle because the going to the arcade was just you knew the sort of. And also another thing is, and think people tend to forget this, and this is not in this model, is that one of the things that would happen was that those early quarters, for people who really became dedicated to one particular game, those early quarters were seen as a price of admission. As you got better
mhm.
at the game, you could play longer. So in theory, you would spend less and less and less money, right? And so the idea was that the ultimate thing was to be able to just pull one credit and just finish the game in one go to show your mastery of the game. So in essence, the game only cost whatever it cost. Let's say original a quarter. That's what it cost, right? It's just that if you wanted to restart the game again, you had to pay again. But if you were good enough, if I was good enough on Miss Pac-Man, and I knew I mastered it, just one quarter, get one credit, and play in that quarter, and I didn't
Or yeah,
lose.
it's yeah.
So it
Until
just
you
cost me a quarter,
lose,
right?
or
Yeah.
until you lose, or until you get too tired
Or
and
you just
have
will
to
walk
go
away and go,
home.
hey kid, hey, and which is happened a lot, right? Like literally, people would go like, especially the older, teenagers and adults, like, I got tired of this, and they will call kids like, hey, you're bored, hey, play the game, and they will play for 5 seconds, whatever they lose, and they got a free game, right? Stuff like that. So it's like, yeah,
And
no,
my so the other issue I can see with this is say out of our little pool of 100 players, everyone uses their game thing, everyone loses, and what guarantee if I'm the one that actually pays to have to for additional plays that I'll have other players?
There's no
Because
incentive to.
yeah, what if everyone else doesn't buy into the system and everyone's used up their free tokens or there's say they're in different parts of the region, so even if there are other concurrent players elsewhere, they may not be on the same server or
Yeah.
it might not pair you up with it. What guarantee as a player that I'm paying money do I have to find other players to play with? I mean, does that mean do they have like people at their offices that are playing like these games 24/7 or at least like idling in their computer? And it's like, oh, someone's looking for a game they play for it, so I better hop on and
I don't think.
have a couple
I
of
don't
us.
think
I
you really
doubt
pay
it.
minimum wage for even to do that, right? And
Yeah,
bots can only do so much. Oh, we have bots. Well, as I'm playing against bots, a free game and paying for a game is the same thing because I'm playing mostly against bots. You can tell the difference, right? If they're good bots or if they're crappy bots, then it's like, well, this is too easy.
oh my god, that's sort of almost like a racket too. I just thought of that. What if you do have like the developers playing, and they don't not necessarily have to be the best players. I mean, they have access to the
Yeah.
game's code and crap.
I
Like,
mean,
oh, you lost. Are you sure you want another hit? Oh, you
yeah.
almost got us.
I think it's a little bit of arrogance here because one of the problems with the culling was that it never really took off, right? They never were able to define what the game really was, and it never had a
Yeah,
huge population. In fact, there's a death of a game video on the culling. Watch it. Just type YouTube death of a game culling, and it was like many of these services, if you don't have a population, like MMOs and stuff like that, it's that. If you don't have players, it's not a single player game. If where you rely on more on sales, this is you gotta have. And what's the minimal population you need? Can you sustain this on 1,000 people, 10,000 worldwide? I'm talking about, not just simply regional. 100,000. And what are you talking about? And what happens when there's dips? What happens when a new game releases and people are like, oh, we're gonna try that, and you know what happens? Can you ask for, what happens
yeah,
if there's a day where you buy tokens and there's server problems? Do you get your money back?
yeah.
You keep losing
What
because there's lag?
what happens? What happens when Cyberpunk comes
Yeah, I mean,
out?
this is just I don't know who thought this was a good idea
I and
because it isn't.
I sort of get the idea. It's like, okay, so people really want to play, but we need to be able to sustain this somehow, not just pay people's paychecks, but also their the server fees and stuff. So I sort of understand it from that point. I just don't think this is a very good model consumer wise, and it's not going to attract consumers. It it feels, again, kinda desperate, just like their first bout, and this isn't like you mentioned, this isn't like a popular game that e either got mismanaged financially or maybe in some sort of way that got really popular, but despite the really high popular numbers, they had to shut down the servers.
Yeah,
The people aren't gonna be, "Oh my god, the calling." It's not like, I guess, like, PlanetSide or something. If, like, PlanetSide were to come back, I've heard plenty of people talk about that game.
yeah, because we already had a community, people were playing it. There's Final Size 2. Yeah, there was there, but they didn't micro. This game is even
But, I
off
mean,
the.
if it came back, like, I if it came back with this kind of model as or something similar to it that's a little more tailored towards its genre, like,
I think
I could
some
see
people would jump into it, but I
yeah,
also
I
think that
could
this is the
s
kind of thing that actually would. Sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
Would wear down the players very quickly,
Mhm.
right?
Oh yeah, it would wear it down, but you can at least see people jumping onto this. I
Yeah.
like for the calling though, like I don't see who was running like a calling fan site or something. I'm sure maybe it's out there, but
Oh
I
yeah.
don't see it.
It's a fan site for everything. Talking about returning to the well, and this is from push pushsquare.com, and mostly does PlayStation news, but other arcade and console news. I'm gonna say this. I still have this. I'll talk about it, but it's still very much a unconfirmed rumor. In other words, there is confirmation of this, but not one that there's gonna be no official announcement. In fact, an official announcement, I wouldn't. Just a likely rumor, but it also will lead us into today. So, according to PushSquare.com, Mass Effect Trilogy HD Master is finally happening, apparently, by Robert Ramsey. Last night we covered EA financial report for 2020, pointing out that the number of announced games are in development, all of them see release on April 1, alongside 4 EA partner titles. Talked about it before we started the program that they're skewing services to this. Also mention of EA HD title, in other words, a remake or remaster. Waiting for almost entire console generation remaster. Trilogy wrote about this. Would offer some hope, but as it happens, we might not even need hope as we release of Mass Effect Trilogy is finally heading our way. According to Venture Beat, who write and the HD remaster of EA game is Mass Effect Trilogy. What, just like that?
Yeah.
This is on Wednesday, 9 p.m. So there's been rumors for years of some kind of remaster.
Yeah, and people wanting it. It's like, oh, where's Mass Effect 3 Trilogy remaster for this console generation?
Mass Effect still retains a rather vocal fan base. Not a huge fan base, necessarily. But it has a remnants, right? It's like every so often somebody makes a Harry Potter reference and everybody else shouts another, like, yeah, go read another book. I think sooner or later we're gonna have memes go like, play another game. It's like, it's are we gonna have this? Like, play another game. just or Skyrim or something like that, right?
Mass Effect: The Cursed Child.
Yeah, and the Cursed Child, Shepard and the Cursed Child,
and the Cursed Artifact, I guess.
So we talked about this before, and particularly in the interview Mass Effect, and what would remakes, remasters, reimagining, and all that. But we said this before really a wave of what's been called remasters or remakes hit earlier this year. Your Resident Evils, Final Fantasy VII's. I thought it was a good time to revisit points along the why. For example, okay, let's talk about Mass Effect. I said that Mass Effect is at best in the cooler, right? They literally have Shepard in cryogenesis stasis somewhere, and there's not much sense for revival unless they need him, right? And this seems to be like they're thawing out Shepard, bringing Shepard's out, right?
Let's roll him out.
They sort of shake him. It's like, okay, here's a gun, go shoot, and make us a couple of $1 million. And then once they're done with that, they put him back in the fridge. Shepard is a hybrid character after. But it's like, okay, that's a thing. Cool. But at the same time, it's you look at what's happening with BioWare, and all the signs point to BioWare essentially, having the head in the guillotine, right, and waiting for somebody to just close the lid and drop the blade, right? And they're already remaking Anthem. Announced earlier this year they're going to make Anthem this, because they have to, because they need a live service to keep their Electronic Arts masters happy, the people who X have to. And they're apparently working on Dragon Age whatever, something, the Calling of the Wolf, whatever.
Dragon Age 4, essentially.
Call it. After Dragon Age 2, I don't think they put numbers on Dragon Age titles. Sorry, people who love Dragon Age 2. I'm really, really sorry. I'm not apologizing for myself. Apologizing on behalf of Electronic Arts and Live. They should be sorry. They're not. Polite. And now they're saying, oh, we have this other franchise, Mass Effect, so let's bring him out. I think it's, again, this is, and let's look at who's running BioWare right now. Casey Hudson. Casey Hudson,
This
Mass
is
Effect was his baby, right? And still is. Dead 3-year old, 3.5-year old dead on the floor. Putrefying, but still his baby. Or 5-year old or 7-year old, depending how much to make. Um, and it's like, well, we can use this again, right? And they have to justify, in a way, keeping the doors open and their franchises. I keep telling people is that the reason why studios like Electronic Arts buy, publishers buy studios is first and foremost for the IP. But the IP has to be valuable. It's only current day value that's important. What have you done for me lately on this IP? You're not putting anything out there Mass Effect related that's really making money, not just a side story or whatever, but a real main game or some sort. You're not worth it. I think one of the reasons why you have the Mass Effect remake, which is, let's be honest, it's going to be a HD remake. They're going to do minimal work on this. This is not, if you're expecting gameplay, if you're expecting, fixing the make on the PC.
I was gonna bring this up. It really depends on like whether it's just gonna be a remaster or just an HD remaster. So an HD remaster is gonna be the easiest because you just put in a lot more textures, like higher quality textures, and maybe just modify the code, work with the textures better, and load them up better. I've seen a lot of actually more recently, like there's an HD pack that released over on Nexus for all three for the entire trilogy to get like 4K textures. I The second remake I don't see them doing is overhauling the engine. Yeah, the Mass Effect trilogy ran on
two engines.
Yeah. Was it
Real.
2 engines?
No, it was
I
two
thought it
engines.
was I thought it was just Unreal 3, even though like Unreal 3 kind of outdated by then. There was Unreal
I
4.
think they changed. Did they change engine? Let me check out. Let's do a Google
I
search because I think
I
they did
really
change engines.
don't. Yeah,
Did
I don't
they
really
change
see.
engines for Mass Effect 2? I thought they did it on Unreal. Yeah, they did change it. PSC3 Mass Effect uses the ME3 engine. The new PSC. They changed it for when they released it on the PS3. So they had an engine for Mass Effect 3. It's different. The first game was on Unreal, and then they switched engines. That's what happened.
So I don't foresee them like putting all three of the games on a like the most current version of Unreal, or heaven forbid they update it to to unfrost.
Frostbite.
Frostbite, unfrost. Well, they're unfrosting Shepherd, so unfrostbite. Unfrostbite Shepherd right now.
Yeah.
I don't foresee them doing that. That would take a lot of resources. Essentially, while you have pretty much all the assets, the story, you're pretty much rebuilding the game from the ground up in terms of framework and structure, and that probably costs and the return on investment on that. I don't foresee that being very good. So they're probably just going to do an HD texture update, making sure that it runs well as a port over to whatever current systems, whether it's going to release it for
1080,
PS4,
4K, maybe 8K
yeah,
pack.
yeah, whether they're going to actually, if they're aiming for a PS4 or PS5 next generation, so either current generation or next generation consoles. Well, I mean that's going to vary. But here's the thing that I'm kind of worried with this. Well, first off, the other thing too is I really doubt that BioWare's going to have that much involvement in it. It's probably going to be outsourced to some other third party studio. Um, that sort of happens a lot with a lot of these HD remakes. They might have some minimal involvement, the original studios, in terms of like, oh, here's some source code, and here's somebody who might be, you're having issues with this. Well, this is what we did before. Let's see if we can figure it out. But I really doubt they're not going to have that. They're not going to be that invested, especially with everything else they're working on. The thing I'm really worried about is if we're going to end up with a Beyond Good and Evil HD issue in terms of when they're like, Casey Hudson's like, well, we would really like to put out a brand new Mass Effect game, like a sequel, either. Well, no, let's face it, I don't think we're not gonna see a a sequel to Andromeda. I highly, highly doubt that. As curious as I would be to see what that would look like.
Mhm.
But it's like we really would like to put out another Mass Effect game set in like the original trilogy, whether it be a sequel or maybe even a direct sequel to the trilogy. But I don't know. We'd have to show EA the numbers and see how well that it might be based on, and not really outright say it, but imply it's going to be based on how well this HD re-release does.
Mm,
Pretty much that's exactly what I think Michelle Ancel did with the HD remake, a re-release of Beyond Good and Evil. It's like we would really like to make a sequel, but we have to see that the numbers are there. But with the HD re-release of Beyond Good and Evil.
yeah, I mean, I think what's gonna happen is a little bit more than just an 18 remake. You might see something like Beamdog did. Beamdog basically is a company has taken almost all the D&D Bioware properties. Well, no, they were not properties of the Bioware. They make the games, but they were, Baldur's Gate 2, Icewind Dale. They did enhanced editions. And Neverwinter Nights. They did enhanced edition and they added more. They're now working on expansions. Neverwinter Nights. I don't know if they're gonna do even more products that line. Maybe, maybe not. But one of the things that happened was that they said there'll never be an Icewind Dale 2 enhanced edition because they don't have the code. Right? What they're doing essentially,
Yeah,
it's you using original code, right? And their engine, their enhanced engine, is basically an improved version of the original engine, making it a little more flexible and more adaptable to modern machines, like modern PCs, and also be able to use a tablet and stuff like that. But that's about it, right? The sprites are very much the same, stuff like that. I like the games because they're pretty good, but it's kind of the same game with some
yeah.
modifications, right? Um, so I think that's gonna be it. But then we're seeing real remakes. We're seeing Final Fantasy VII. We're seeing Resident Evil. These are, granted, these games are over 20 years old, right? 20 and
Yeah.
1990s, early 2000s. They're the kind of games that, were first generation, 3D games were all blocky and stuff like that. That Cloud had Popeye style arms, like blocky arms. So
Yeah, he looked like I always thought they were like Mega Man characters because their hands
yeah,
are all
yeah,
flat, so they're like pew pew pew.
yeah. So that's if you want to bring them today, you have to remake them not only graphically but also the engine. Final Fantasy Seven, it's a reimagining all the way. If you're gonna use movie terminology or TV terminology, reimagining. It's taking the ideas and concepts of Final Fantasy Seven. Okay, we're gonna follow some of these plot points. We're gonna bring the characters. We're gonna talk more about their background, get more information. But this is not the Final Fantasy Seven to remember because we're not making them. That's not viable. Um, Also, in case of Mass Effect and other remakes, is where's the audience, right? You talk about good and evil. You have people who are
Mhm.
very vocal and they sound like they're a multitude. But outside of the Mass Effect franchise, really, people who are fans, I think a lot of people haven't been clamoring for it. They're like, oh, that was a good game and, it had things and we had fun, right? There's not a market, really. Like I said, I think it's more of a saying, hey, listen, BioWare as an entity has these franchises, these IP, and they're viable. We can extract more money from them, right?
Mhm.
We can keep working on them, and this is sort of a stopgap feature. So it's going to take us a while to overhaul Anthem 2, especially with the new consoles coming in. We're still working on Dragon Age, and that's going to be a long haul, especially if we got rid of BioWare Magic. What can we have a quick turnaround that goes like, Konami style? They can just turn around, put it in there, and go, hey, got something. Especially for this year or maybe next year, when the new consoles come, right? I mean, the middle ground would be things like giving console support, not controller support for PC across the board. None of the originals had that. You had to mod it in.
Yeah.
And people say, well, it's better. You're shooting better with keyboard and mouse. Not really, because they're not first-person shooters. They're third-person shooters. And what tends to happen in my experience is they were playable with, Mass Effect 2 and 3. I played them with keyboard and mouse, especially Mass Effect 3, which was launched natively for PC. But especially Mass Effect 2 and even Mass Effect 1, or just Mass Effect, it was originally for Xbox. Unless you're sniping, the hitboxes are still console level size and stuff like that, and the movements were very jerky, right? Especially with the lower FPS. So you don't get the precision on the WSD that matches the mouse precision. So it almost like you need the kind of assist that come with a controller to really have that smoother experience. And the Mako was undrivable. At least I found undrivable keyboard. I mean, I don't like to drive any vehicles. Some people do. I'm not. I don't. But it's certainly the Mako being a tank where you can point and shoot in one place and move the other. That threw a lot of people off, right? Are they gonna remake the maps, right, in the original game, so that you don't have to be going over hills and spending like 2 hours just to get that one little patch of greenery that will get you to the place? Again, I don't see that. So, also in general, I think we're seeing a lot of remakes, especially older remakes. There's something interesting about the remakes, especially the what called the true remakes, like Final Fantasy, right? The reimagining. One would argue that having all these remakes shows that the video game industry has hit the same problem Hollywood has, that they cannot come up with new. But in the interesting remakes, like basically made by Japanese, they're actually adding a lot of cool stuff that shows that they do have originality and artistry and creativity. They're taking old concepts and saying, hey, what if we put this element on and make it its own experience? But I don't see that a lot in the West. So there's a divide, I think, between the way some of these remakes, especially with Capcom and Final Fantasy, made, where they are really being innovative, but based on existing material, versus many other Japanese and many Western remakes like Effect and others, Banjo-Kazooie and all that, which are not really innovative at all. They're just sort of like, oh, we're gonna up the graphics and that's the end of that.
Yeah, that actually I just remembered something when you brought up your example. BioWare supposedly did lose the source code for that Pinnacle Peak Station DLC because the PlayStation 3 didn't have that. So it's like, oh, I guess that's going to be missing. Not that we're missing all that much, but it
I
is
didn't play
previously.
it.
It is.
Nobody mentions it.
Yeah, it is previously, released content. It existed. It's
Yeah.
not going to be in there unless they decide to rebuild it. I've never, or I don't. I know there's probably more of a technical issue behind it, but I don't see why they can't just, go back to Xbox 360, download the files, and then just like port it over. I'm sure there's some. It's not that easy, but like there you go.
Well, a couple of things is that a lot of the data on those disks, a lot of obviously junk data, essentially. That's what
Mhm.
data mining comes from. That you have like missing maps and stuff like that, and you know, it's not a your the final product. If you're gonna make remakes, for example, textures, you have
Yeah.
to make the textures fit the character, right? Um, if, for example, if you ever mod stuff like Skyrim, I go back to a lot. You have like new
Mhm.
textures. One of the problems is it's called blackface.
Yeah.
It's not racist. It just happens because you have the computer can't tell the difference between the original texture and the new texture that you overlaid over it, and so they collide and takes and either goes gray or black. So taking the old textures and just putting a new texture over it that fits the same skeleton can cause more problems. Also, having the original engine means that you can get rid of that extraneous data that you don't need, clean it up, and really, it gives you more control, especially if you're porting it to a new engine. Because if you're working with new tools, the way you run that old game, you're running it through the old engine, right? So having the source code is source code, in many ways, source codes without the engine, like the graphic assets, the sound files. You may have to go to the sound files and make lip sync, change lip sync. You may have to, for example, re-record lines. You may have to even call an actor and actress to come back and re-record a line if they're available.
Yeah.
Right? And it's much easier to do that with the source code. Again, it depends how much resource. Like the guys in Beanbog said, don't have the source code, we're not going to do it. Our business model is not based on pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars on remaking a game from the right. There's one thing to work with what you have and modify it, but it comes to a point where, because you always also run it happens in Skyrim, many other games, is you break it. You keep adding more stuff, and little errors pile up and break it. Just break the game. Running an old engine, trying to force that engine to work with new hardware, etc. And there's a lot of things. So going back to the source code, essentially you have all the graphics files that look, for example, if you look at a texture map, right, you have the actual location point. So you have your character and the skeleton, and you have points in the space, and having the situation where your character can move to a point and have this object is you could collide with this object. This other object is destructible. That other object is not destructible. You can recreate that space, right, in their new engine if you have the source code, versus slapping it on like new stuff, new coat of paint on existing. You're more liable to break the stuff, right? And with Pinnacle Station is like Pinnacle Station wasn't very successful. People were like, what? There was there was another DLC for Mass Effect? What?
Yeah, it's essentially like an asset flick combat simulator thing with a really lame ass story.
Yeah. Also, there's another aspect to this as well, is when you do remakes, the good ones versus the bad ones is monetization.
Oh, yeah.
Microtransactions. The temptation is always there to slap in microtransactions level. Mass Effect 3 had microtransactions. Had a multiplayer. Are they going to try to backtrack and have multiplayer in every single version of the game?
Well, it might be. If there is multiplayer in here and it's not just a single player, I think it's just going to be its own separate asset. So you'll pop the disc in or download the thing. It'll have like this huge interface where it's like play Mass Effect 1, play Mass Effect 2, play Mass Effect 3, play Mass Effect multiplayer.
Well, that is if they sell it as one unit.
Yeah.
Because they sold especially for a PlayStation, they did this mostly for the people playing PlayStation, which is they had the collector's edition, right?
Yeah, they did with that with say like the Ratchet and Clank and Jack and Dexter and Sly Cooper collection. You can buy them all on one disc, and they'd be all on one disc, or you can buy them. I think you can buy them as a bundle digitally, or you can buy them separately as individually.
Yeah, but again, in order to make this viability, and if they're going for, well, it's going to be expensive and we want to do it. I mean, again,
yeah,
talk about Final Fantasy, it's based on chapters, and they might be as good as 7 chapters.
Yeah, and I think if it comes out, regardless of whether it has multiplayer or not, I think they're gonna want to sell it like $60 for Xbox or for PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, whatever console comes out. HD remake, replay the game again with higher graphics or better graphics and stuff, because
all the DLC as well that it has. Particularly Mass Effect 2, which has all that gun extra suits.
Yeah,
DLC.
and of course Mass Effect.
Are they gonna be? Oh, you want the knight armor thing from Dragon Age? Or is it gonna cost you 99 cents to get, or $1.50 or something?
So this brings up another issue. So I mean, you get all the Mass Effect 3 DLC in there, but remember that one of those DLCs is rewriting what the game originally was, and that's the original ending.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of they're almost rewriting that mistake of, "Oh, our audience didn't quite understand our ending. Well, here's the way it always was. Yeah, the Normandy comes down and picks everyone up, and
Yeah, we made it worse, but artistic integrity. Right?
yeah."
Um,
So, I mean, there's that aspect I just thought of. It's like, "Oh," because I really don't think they're going to this isn't gonna be a this isn't a remake in terms of, like, Final Fantasy. It's just, "Hey, we're gonna tell the same, story as, like, say, like, Mass Effect 1, we're gonna tell the exact same story, it's gonna be slightly overhauled, but nothing's gonna be different, none of side quests, none of well, most of the side quests are gonna be the same. Maybe we change the Cerberus one and make them kinda line up a little more with the front, or maybe we'll drop hints like, "Oh, we talk about bring up Justicars in the first one, that way kinda drag it along," or hey, there's this crazy criminal running around. She's bald and she's a superpower biotic, but we never see her in the first
yeah,
game.
I don't think this is
I,
gonna happen at all.
no, like that would be kind of neat if it's like, hey, well, here's we got the structure of a trilogy. Let's go back and make it better and tie it together better. But I don't have the confidence in BioWare to actually do that in terms of making it.
It's to me, it's first of
It's
all,
that.
it's a corporate culture. We talked about this before, and again, this. I mean, we're making a little bit of assumptions based on the fact that I don't personally individual known as Casey
Mhm.
Hudson. I don't. I never met him. We never had a conversation. So let's make that very clear. But based on his personal behavior in public, that's what we have to go on, and the products, and the lines, his and the rest of Bioware, and a lot of people who were in the original games are not available. They moved on. They've left the video game industry, including the original owners and presidents, the two owner presidents of Bioware, left the gaming industry shortly after. They not only left Bioware, they left gaming altogether shortly after the debacle
Mhm.
of ending. Um, Bioware doesn't like to admit mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the extended cut, it was like you just said, it's like let us explain to you who do not understand what's happening, let us explain to you how this works, and then you do it, and you're like, uh, uh, and then we're gonna do a DLC that retcons the thing, so you get to understand. Like, it was great until you started retconning things, and then you have Mass Andromeda, and you retcon more things. They're perfectly willing to retcon stories after the fact, but I don't see them, for example, hauling over all the actors and actresses to do all the voices and do no
Yeah.
lines and do, I don't know, Mass Effect 2, a simple situation where you go and talk to at least one of the counselors, you know, and so they have the words like, yeah, in public we're saying this, but in private we have these questions. Because just having a scene with one of the counselors, like, okay, listen, Shepard, maybe I do want to believe you, I don't want to believe you. Look at all the problems that we have beyond just these, where are we going to send our ships? What exactly is the threat? You're working with Cerberus now, which are avowed enemies, right, of the council. You say there's a problem, but you present no solutions other than we have to be prepared. What does that mean? That conversation alone would have made the plot of Mass Effect 2 and the entire trilogy even better, right? Just a short scene where you're like, and you maybe get frustrated. It's like, oh, you don't want to believe me, whatever. Fine, write it whatever you want. But just have the, like, I don't know, talk to the Turian counselor. Go, hey, listen, I know we don't like each other, but this is a threat to your
Uh,
people. And he goes like, okay, fine, where are we gonna send our ships? I got 10,000 ships. Where am I gonna send them? I'm gonna send them to dark space? Just fight this a Reaper ship. If just one Reaper ship, yeah, we'll send them. What if there's 10,000 of them? Like Sovereign. What are we gonna do about it? We're just gonna lose our entire fleet? We've been searching the databases on the Citadel and can't make it work. we have problems with that. And Salarian says, "Hey, we're trying. Every time we go, the keepers melt anyway." So we, stuff like that, right? You could have a little bit of more explanation other than we don't believe it.
Oh,
You
we
know?
after that conversation, it's like, what do you want to do? It cuts away. Like Shepard doesn't see this, but like it's for the audience. Like, well, I guess I'll have to come up with my own contingency.
Yeah.
Like, the Andromeda project, the Andromeda initiative.
Yeah, something like that. And that's another thing. Wow. Now that I thought about it,
Like, let's tie in Andromeda.
that is, I do see that happening sneakily though, because you do have a lot of text, in games, and you might see like that's probably the extent. That's probably the extent of the rewrites, right? It's gonna be text.
It's gonna be
codex,
some random
in codex, right? Oh, we added this here. You go this, and you
or or there might be like a little, hey, read this little data pad icon, and it's like, hey, join the Andromeda initiative. We're gonna go explore a brand new galaxy. And
yeah. But outside of that, I don't see them re-recording any lines other than for audio quality, stuff like that. Um, and I think that's the thing. It's like remakes are all the rage. How far? Again, the old question: how far are you willing to go? And with Mass Effect, I don't see graphics. Maybe bump up the FPS to sort of very mechanical. And the problem with that is that, especially for the original game, which is ironic because a lot of people complained that the other games didn't have role playing mechanics. They lost something. No, they actually made the gameplay better. Because the gameplay of the original Mass Effect was a bit clunky, right? It was, oh, hey, I'm a special forces kind of guy, but I don't know how to shoot a pistol. I miss every other shot, It's like, and I have like 5 different skills to hack a door. Like, oh, you didn't bring the right guy with the right skill for hacking this particular door. It's like, but they can hack. Yeah, but you need electronics for this hacking. Okay, sure. It's a computer. Everything has computers on it, but I can't hack this particular door. I don't get this treasure, right? Are they gonna limit it? Are they gonna do a limited meta-gel across the games, or are they gonna have from the very beginning? What was it? What was the thing that the guns use in second and third games? Clip system. Thermal clips.
Yeah, thermal clips.
No, they're not gonna put thermal clips on the. They're not gonna do that, right? So yeah, I mean.
Are they going to get rid of Unity from the beginning? Because Unity's in the second and the third game, that skill that revives everyone from a distance. Instead, you have to run up to them and then revive them manually, but it doesn't use up metagel.
I mean, there's multiple things. First of all, it's mechanical. If you wanted to really make all the games better, remake, I would say
flow together.
Take the mechanics from the Mass Effect 3 game, which is best. Characters move faster. They could do jumps. They could also tumble. Useless, but it was fun. They had grenades. They had all the powers. They could revive enemies, allies without using metagel, but you had to go to them as opposed to from it. I think you might the metagel and the life bars and like that, and most of all, the weight system of weapons. And kids like, oh, I can have all the weapons, but I don't have a lot of power. I can have all the powers, but very light of weapons. I thought that was a big compromise, but they're not gonna do that. So you're gonna have the clunky mechanics of the original, the halfway point of the second one, where everybody complained that it wasn't role playing enough, and then you had to have the rather excellent mechanics of the third game, but I'm gonna say this politely, the utter clusterfuck of a story that Mass Effect 3 had to deal with. The answer to all that is no, which brings me to a question: who's gonna buy into the HD remake? I think I wouldn't buy it on some. I think a lot of people won't.
Yeah.
People are gonna say, "Oh, there's a remake." Some people will buy it. They might get a couple of million sales, but in a world where companies like EA, fret if they don't sell 10+ million copies per title,
No.
again,
And honestly, why would I want to pay $60 for all three Mass Effect games when I already own them? Unless there's something different to them, I guess.
And you have to go
Slightly
through
different.
Origins,
Oh yeah,
Origin,
that.
or whatever they're gonna call it. Too. It's like it's the same thing but different. But I mean, again, if you're not willing to go the distance and essentially um, piss off your remaining fan base, like I don't happen with Final Fantasy before. A lot of the original fan was like, "Oh, you changed the ending." It's like kind of had to because you already know what's gonna happen. What's the point of buying this game
Yeah.
if it's not something substantial to it? Yeah. I mean, will it sell? I think it will sell, especially the original. Unless if they don't bundle, if they bundle them all together, it will say.
Mm-hmm.
What are we discussing? We're discussing Lumjacker. Welcome to the channel. We are finishing our discussion on the potential Mass Effect 3, Mass Effect series remakes and remakes of video games in general. And we're talking about essentially, I was talking about how if BioWare doesn't go far enough with its reinterpretation of the original series, it's not going to be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think they're in a position to invest the at least tens of millions of dollars required to do so.
Yeah, to pull a Final Fantasy VII remake.
Yeah, or anything like that. Motion capture. None of the original games have motion capture. The moment you put motion capture in, you bring all these actors and actresses to do motion capture, your costs are gonna shoot through the roof. Thank you for the follow, Lumjacker. Right? I mean, there's so much stuff. So we now know what a good-looking, well-made remake looks like. We used to, when we last talked about this, it's still a little bit of speculation because most remakes were, they were just HD remakes, right? They were just bringing up the game to graphical and sometimes mechanical, modern mechanics or sprucing them up. That was it. But now we know what a real remake looks like, and anything short of that for what it is, even how much we bash Mass Effect, the classic, I don't think it's gonna be worth it.
Yeah. Oh, so I guess this is gonna be interesting in a post Final Fantasy remake world. How that's gonna affect players' perception of what a remake can be, or like a remaster.
Oh yeah, Lumjacker, a remake of GTA. Well, I don't think that's where they're going with that. I don't expect any remake. I think what they're doing is, in many ways, they're sort of reimagining. Like the last GTA 5 was sort of a not quite return to San Andreas, right? And there is talk that the next one will be in, it will be Vice City, but not quite Vice City. So it will be like Vice City 1980, so fictionally 40 years later, 30, 40 years later. Well, actually more like close to 50 years, depending how you. And so we have that. So no, I don't see Rockstar looking back that far. Right? They make the new game. They're very happy to, bring back stuff from the past. Right? Again, going to Los Santos, going to Vice City, etc. Maybe going back to London. Yeah, I mean, some people are trying to do that, but I don't see Rockstar doing it. Extend their map. I don't see them. What they do is basically they just take those ideas like, oh, you love San Andreas back in 2000s with a hot coffee mall. Now in the 2010s, we're gonna bring you back with but new characters, new locations, some allusions to the past, right? But not. And I think they're working on Vice City right now, so essentially they're gonna new map, new thing, but it's not gonna be it's not gonna be GTA Vice City. It's not gonna be GTA San Andreas. They could do it, and I think those games actually kind of would. Yeah, Rockstar would never do that, right? That you could do it HD remake, but they're so focused on the next. The thing with Rockstar again, it's just another aspect of the the mentality within the industry, right? The mentality within the particular company. We talk about Casey Hudson and how he thinks and how Bioware thinks. Rockstar now has the mentality of making every game bigger, bigger, and
Bigger, bigger.
bigger, bigger, right? Um, so you can go back to a tiny map that in a helicopter you can traverse in 5 seconds, in 10 minutes, right? In Vice City, actually, no, you can do it like in 5 minutes, depending how you go. If you go east to west, you go through the three islands like in 5 minutes. 10 minutes if you go north to south, right? But I love Vice City, you know. Yeah, probably that's what they're gonna do. I think what they're gonna do is they're gonna do a much bigger Vice City and be like Southern Florida, right? They're gonna do like what they did with San Andreas, right? They basically took a chunk of California and compressed it all in. Uh, yeah, like they added Group 3 in GTA 5, right? They compressed it all into one map, but that's it, right? They'll have like the mountains and stuff like that. But in the GTA 5 San Andreas, they had 3 cities. They now basically take Southern California and made it into its own state, mini state. So I expect that they're gonna have Vice City, and maybe have, they're gonna expand it certainly. Maybe have a lot of, like, you go to the swamps and stuff like that, right? You have swampland, and you have a wilderness, and you have to deal with the hillbillies, and you have a satellite state where you have to deal with bikers and stuff like that. So yes, indeed. Essentially, Vice City is the fantasy version, their version of Miami, and the city of Miami, la ciudad de Miami, and and San Andreas is related to Los Angeles. So San Andreas is named San Andreas for the San Andreas Fault. Yeah, I've been to Miami a couple of times, and Miami, it's much bigger, especially the sort of the slums area. It's just spreads out like well inland. But I've been to Miami, so it's very similar. You usually don't find great white sharks near that near to the beach, of course. And everybody doesn't drown automatically when they go to Vice City, but besides that, pretty much the same. But yeah, as we were talking, each company, Rockstar doesn't have the mentality of going back and making things that are smaller. Casey Hudson and BioWare don't like to admit mistakes because they believe in BioWare magic. But companies like would be, but I doubt it. Again,
Yeah,
they're gonna
they're
play it
gonna stick
safe.
to what they know.
Yeah, they're gonna play it safe, right? I think if they try to do like Britain, like London, right? I would say it was the GTA London. Bristol. I don't see it. Paris, version of Paris, right?
GTA Moscow.
GTA Moscow. I don't. I mean, it would be cool, but I don't see it. Well, Brazil, yeah. But with Brazil, I think Rockstar already has had a lot of problems with Brazil being an entire continent. No, not a continent, but giant nation. Maybe Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro. Um, they're gonna run into a problem that Rockstar has a lot of time. That's the stereotypes, right? they really have had a problem with stereotypes in the past. I mean, it's a Hollywood version of well, that's a subcontinent. You're modeling entire. I mean, I wish they did India, but I think I don't think that you can put in any system right now. But yeah, I mean,
Yep.
so in conclusion, because we were trying to wrap up here, um, you have now two choices. You can do the old sprucing up of the graphics and tweaking out their edges, or you can now go the full hog. We're gonna make Resident Evil. We're gonna make I think the US is the best. There you go. And just or go, Final Fantasy VII, new graphics, new engine, expansion of the story, rewrites, new voice actors, all that kind of stuff. Oh, actually, the game didn't have voice acting, so
No.
literally, and motion capture and all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's my take. Either one or the other, and I suspect when it comes
Yeah.
to Mass Effect, it's gonna be I
Yeah,
want
they're
the
gonna.
latter, but not the former.
I'm expecting a third party port essentially.
Yeah. So, well, they did that in GTA 4 with Liberty City. So I don't back again. Liberty City again. Uh, so, Chapamon, where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can find me at Chapomon pretty much everywhere. I am Chapomon_Aragon on Twitch and Twitter, but I primarily hang out on YouTube over there. You can check out my channel under just Chapomon.
And of course, you can find me here Monday through Friday playing Baldur's Gate 2 Enhanced Edition. And of course, we have the podcast on Tuesday. And on Sundays, I run a live role playing stream, PM, played over at Raktus. Is RK RAK RAKTUS called Iron Claw, where the King's Chosen are facing the threats to the crown, the future of the Isles. So, Lumjacker, thank you for joining us in this discussion. Thank you for following the channel, and we also have a Discord. So, you want to join the Discord? Just put the ask on the chat, and we do that. Thank you for coming, and as always, we'll see you when we see you. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.